Welcome to History at Home, bringing the museum to you. During the 1800s, Ontario was full of small to medium-sized breweries that supplied households, hotels, and public houses in their communities. Thomas Hellawell was likely the first brewer in what is now known as Niagara Falls. Hellawell immigrated with his family from Todmorden, England, to Niagara in 1819. He established a store and a brewery in the vicinity of Lundy's Lane and Ferry Street, an area then known as Drummondville. The establishments closed in 1821, and the family moved the beer operation to the Don River in Toronto. There, the Hellawells established the Don Brewery and Todmorden Mills. Historic sites associated with the industry and the family are still present there today. It's said that Mary Hellawell traveled from Niagara to Toronto in the brewery's copper kettle, carried by an ox-drawn sleigh, holding her youngest son on her knee. William Russell came to Niagara Falls in 1833, also from Yorkshire, England. A stonemason and contractor, he built a red brick house on the north side of Ferry Street in 1839. Today, this location is directly across from the Niagara Falls History Museum. Using the natural spring water that ran behind the property, William opened Russell's Brewery in 1844. The business is also referred to as Drummondville or Chippewa Brewery. As an Englishman, Russell produced ales and porters to suit the tastes of his countrymen. As of 1879, the brewery produced 1,200 barrels of ale and porter each year. In the late 1870s, Russell either partnered with or sold his brewery to Frederick Fisher, a German immigrant, who began to produce lager at the facility. This was the trend across English Canada. As more Germans arrived, lager became more popular, until it surpassed ale as the most popular beer in Canada, as it remains today. By the 1880s, the brewery produced 20,000 barrels of lager annually. In 1885, the brewery was sold to W.H. Ferguson, and unfortunately it burned down the following year. An American who had been in the taxi business until purchasing the brewery, Ferguson chose not to rebuild. No new brewery would open again in Niagara Falls until 104 years later. A stone office building of Russell's, constructed in 1851, remains today as part of a restaurant and apartment building. The natural spring that once supplied Drummondville's largest industry and others is no longer a visible presence in the city. The historic whereabouts can be found by the waterway's namesake, Spring Street. Interestingly, Spring Street intersects with Temperance Avenue. Ontario's prolific brewing industry faced immense challenges in the early 1900s. The Ontario Temperance Act of 1916 meant that breweries could only ship to places where alcohol was legal or manufacture non-alcoholic beverages. Many breweries soon struggled. Some were bought up by larger conglomerates. Of the 64 breweries in Ontario before the Temperance Act was passed, only 15 were in operation by the time it ended in 1927. By the 1970s, almost all of the beer in the country was produced by 3 companies. In the 1980s, beer enthusiasts once again demanded a variety of beers, in addition to the light lagers produced for the masses. Today, the presence of over 200 craft breweries in Ontario signifies a return to the tradition of small-scale, local production. True to their marketing, some can even trace their lineage back to our first brewers. Did you know that John Sleeman had his start using Stamford spring water at the north border of Niagara Falls? Mario and Bruno Kriveler founded the Niagara Falls Brewing Company on Lundy's Lane in 1989. This was used partially as a testing ground for the new brewery equipment they were developing at their family business, which had focused on winemaking products. While the brewery produced conventional North American beers such as Trapper Premium Lager and Gritstone Ale, they became known for offerings such as Maple Wheat, produced with Alberta wheat and Ontario maple syrup, Creek, a Belgian beer flavored with cherries, and the first Eisbock commercially produced in North America. This is a strong beer made by freezing the brew and removing the ice, concentrating both the alcohol content and the flavor. The company was purchased by Moosehead in 2004 and has since been moved to Brampton and rebranded Hop City. Breweries now appear regularly in Niagara Falls. Some recent additions include Taps Brewing Company, Niagara Brewing Company, and Counterpart Brewing.